I'm here tonight with Steamboat Willie, finally back on with us, and Mikey Mike from a beautiful Maryland, the home of Adam Schiff. How are you guys doing
Yeah,
tonight?
we're doing good.
How are you,
Good.
Steamboat?
Hey,
Living the dream.
Hey, I want to start off by talking about. Um, I know they called it a debate, but I call it a snivelly session yesterday. Um, what are your thoughts, Mike?
actually didn't get to watch it, but I've just picked up bits and pieces through the news,
Right?
and it sounds like everybody's trying to jockey for a position, except for what's his name, Krispy Kreme, uh,
Christy.
Christie. Yeah,
Yeah, I didn't watch it. I heard some of the debate on the way to a meeting last night. It just sounds like little kids arguing in the gym, and nobody's really talking about the real issues that that need to be looked at. They're more of a Nikki Haley's this, um, Rami defending Trump at every corner he can go because I know he wants a staff job with Donald Trump when Trump wins the election. Um, it just seemed like a dog and pony show to me.
yeah. I didn't hear too much about DeSantis and what he said.
Um, from what I read, everybody thinks Nikki Haley actually won the debate for whatever that's worth.
Yeah.
So that
And I
tells you everything.
wanted and I wanted to thank California because I just hear an indictment was handed down to a good old Hunter Biden.
Yay!
Yay!
We do some things good in California, not a lot, but we do some. We do some.
It's the same prosecutor that was doing it for the gun charges in Delaware. So we'll see if Daddy wants to pardon him.
I don't know if you saw the debate with Newsom and DeSantis. Did you see that one?
I did see that one.
What do you think on that one?
I thought of good old slick Gavin Newsom. He had, the model look, but he didn't have the substance, especially when they put the numbers up on the things that were bad compared to Florida's. And he was like liar, liar, liar. He wasn't on any game.
Did you catch the fact that he didn't answer a lot of questions?
Oh yeah,
Um,
all you want to do is stand there and look pretty.
right, and I know Hannity finally gave up towards the end of the debate on trying to get them to at least answer the questions instead of again. It felt like two kids in junior high school. Um, my state's better than your state, kind of thing.
Yeah, but the one funny thing I noticed, and I told Slick Willie over here, I mean Steamboat Willie. Sorry, somebody else has that name. But if you looked at Gavin Newsom's hands during the debate, one of them went red, then the other one went red. He's hanging on to the podium because he's so angry that he's putting all the stress in his
Well,
hands, and they were red.
fellas, let's going back to what Tony said. Let's look at the debate between those four contenders. The winner of that debate was Donald Trump, because
Yes.
what you had was infighting, and anybody that thinks that Nikki Haley won that debate, they called her out for her special interests. No, and nobody won that debate last night. Now, with regard to the debate with DeSantis wiped the floor with Newsom.
And we knew that would
Just on
happen.
the truth. Just on the truth. And so, look, this is going to be interesting. But even with all the legal woes, Trump's still leading the Republican pack between 40 and 41%.
Yeah.
So, you know what? Buckle up, and watch history be made one more time. And before my phone does something, I'm in an undisclosed location tonight. But here's the thing: I want to congratulate our host Tony Rodriguez on a well-earned endorsement from the Los Angeles Republican Party.
Yes, sir.
Good
Thank you,
job.
guys.
Good job, boss.
Thank you so much. It was interesting how that operates, how it works. But in the end, we came out ahead.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to my interview on Saturday morning with the California GOP. Hopefully, I'll get them to endorse me, and we can move forward on the campaign.
Well,
It'd be
well,
nice for the Sacramento Bee to put you in there too.
that's right.
It'd be nice.
Yeah.
That's right.
But the debates. You're right. DeSantis won that debate, but what I noticed from that debate was that Newsom really didn't want to answer any questions. He wanted to.
Well, no, he was dodging. You're right.
Support Biden and Kamala Harris. That's what his job was.
That's right.
Not really answering questions.
That's right. And you're right about Ramaswamy too. Ramaswamy's look. All that is it's an unofficial episode of The Apprentice. The only one who's going to be voted off at that island is Chris Christie. And maybe DeSantis. Yeah.
You got to give Christie credit though, right? Because he's attacked Trump from day one, and he continues to attack. He doesn't play the game, right? Like the rest of them are.
Well, no, that's true. But then if you go back just a little bit, and you remember when he ran against the president in 2016, he did the same thing back then. When he realized he was not a contender for the nomination, he stepped up to Trump, just like DeSantis did. And all of this, and this is what Christie does. He's back and forth. He licks his finger, puts it in the air, but he's got nothing to lose by doing this, but it's not having an impact. I think the latest poll I saw today was Christie is at 2%.
Yep.
2%. Yeah.
He was at 4%, so he dropped.
He's going to keep.
At the end of the day, once Iowa happens, they're all going to drop out. I think Nikki Haley might stay, but the rest will drop out.
Yeah. Well, look, Iowa's literally a primary in presidential politics. It's a litmus test. It's not really an official primary. It's important, but look at how many people have won Iowa and did not go on to win New Hampshire. So Iowa's Iowa.
And Ted Cruz won it last time.
Yeah,
he did. He did win it. But it's just
at one time Rick James Buchanan won Iowa, and so you don't you can't really depend on Iowa on this thing. But New Hampshire will set the stage.
And that's
I just don't think that any of those candidates are going to win Iowa. So, no matter what they think, I think it's going to be a landslide all the way around.
Yeah, Trump's been out there quite a bit, and DeSantis comes out and he wants to thank everybody, including the governor, is going for him. Well, when they have their little town halls and everything else,
no, exactly.
It doesn't really work. I think all this is a waste of time and money at this point. Maybe the first debate was worth it, but none of those candidates up to have a shot. None of them, not one of them. Right.
Well, Trump will be on the January 15th debate.
Oh, he is?
Left from what I'm gathering. Yeah, he's going to be on that debate. So he'll just kind of, he's going to come out there with a broom and just start sweeping people off stage.
Well, that debate that will be the highest rated debate if Trump shows up.
Yeah.
Right. Definitely will be.
Because I think last night he had a fundraiser or something going on, and he was doing that while the debate was going on.
Yeah, it's really a smart strategy, I think. I would be remiss to our Jewish brothers and sisters out there. Happy Hanukkah.
Happy Hanukkah.
Happy
And
Hanukkah.
even though the United Nations, one of the most useless institutions on the face of the planet, even though they're supporting Hamas policy-wise, Israel will have the victory in the end of this conflict.
I like their
Yeah,
idea of
I don't.
flooding the tunnels.
I think you're right. The part that's very concerning to me is there's been over 74 attacks on Navy and commercial ships.
And we're doing nothing. We're not responding. And
We lost.
about that. They were talking about that.
Equipment.
Yeah. Today's December 7th, for God's sake.
Yep.
Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day. You know, when our country is attacked or our soldiers, men and women in uniform are attacked, our job is to respond. We've said nothing coming out of the White House and the Department of Defense. And this is not leadership. Just is not.
You know, no, it's not. I mean, but we already know there's no leadership, right? At this point. You know, Barack is not doing anything to keep his boy in check. So I mean,
Yeah.
we're going through a time that, first of all, I never thought I would see in our country. Number one. Number two, I think people on both sides of the spectrum are fed up with the nonsense. I think they're starting to come around. I don't know if it's because the economy's hitting them really hard or they finally see the light. You know, either way, I don't care as long as you're starting to see that we need to get over the nonsense of voting for people because they belong to a party. Let's vote
That's
for
right.
people that are doing the right thing or want to do the right thing and give them
Well,
an opportunity.
Yeah, and I think. Go ahead, Mike.
And I heard my congressman, Steny Hoyer, today saying, "No, we got to back Ukraine because it's good for our national security." And I'm like, "Hello, dumbass! You're 3 years old,
Yeah.
since the '80s, and our focus should be on that southern border where we're letting in 12,000 people every day."
Well, it keeps compounding every day, and
Oh yeah,
it is a national security crisis down there, no doubt about it. And
yep.
and to the north too. The north, you only hear a few people talking about it. Trump is one of the few talking about the northern border too. But I was looking at the stats of who's coming across, and we make it look like a Hispanic crisis. You had over 3,000 Iranians cross through the southern border. You've had a couple of hundred Iraqis, Libyans. If you literally get the State Department reports on who's crossing the southern border, they're across the pond, and these are extremists.
26,000 Chinese came in.
Yes, 26,000 Chinese too. And so it is a national security crisis. And if we don't get on the job, we're going to pay for it.
Yep. They're going to make us try to implode from within.
That's right. That's right.
Well,
that's the objective.
Everything else that we do, right? It's look over there while something's happening on the other side, kind of things that are going on right now.
Exactly.
It's a shame that that's where we're at now, instead of the powerful country that we're supposed to be. That at least I used to believe we were, right? But things have changed. Things have definitely changed in our world today. I think people get caught up on not really understanding who or what they're voting for. Kind of like Prop 47 in California. They gave it a nice title. So people voted for that beautiful title, but not what was in the bill. And there's a lot of regrets about that now, right? They're not going to admit that they didn't read the bill. They're just going to say, that Gascon took advantage, and he didn't. He didn't. I mean, he is taking advantage, but we passed the bill. It wasn't Gascon that passed the bill.
No, that's
So
right.
there's got to be changes in how we do things and how bills are processed. We can't keep doing it the same way. It's not
Yeah.
working.
But when you get to Sacramento, you can remind your colleagues of and things hopefully will start improving. Anyway.
I can tell you that I'm probably one of the most hated guys up there when I get up there, for sure.
Okay, that's all right. That's all right. If
you
everybody up there
I'm
was,
not there to make friends.
yeah,
Yep.
if
I'm not
every,
there to be their friends anyway.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't. You know, if you're popular in Sacramento, I won't support your reelection.
Well, you know, it's funny because you see all the congressmen and senators that are dropping out saying, I'm not going to go again. And McCarthy wants to go in January. And I thought, well, you just showed your colors right there because you were going to stick it out until, you know, the term was up.
That's absolutely
And,
true.
you know, the people that get in like you, Tony, when most people are fresh faced and they go and they want to work for the people. It's when they start stretching out their length of service, it becomes, I'm going to look out for me.
That's right.
And that's what we don't need. So I think this is my prediction that if you get new blood in there for those 30 people, you're going to see some big changes because it's not going to be about me. It's going to be about, hey, I might want to get elected again. I got to do something.
Right. And that's a good point, Mike. What's really scary is though that now we have a very slight majority, right, in the House.
Yeah.
Very slight. How is McCarthy leaving going to affect that? That's the most important question for me. Once he leaves, how many of his cronies are going to go with him? That's a scary thought.
Yeah. And you know, I don't know about that angle, but you know, now they're saying we ought to expel Menendez for the stuff that he did, which was much worse than Santos's. And if they do that, that'll bring that Democrat one down a peg too.
Right.
Yeah, they both need to be held. No, I mean you can't hold one party accountable. No, that's the way. That's the way it's supposed to work. And
it's fair justice.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Well,
gentlemen, go ahead.
Right. We say that, but I'm going to give you guys an example of one party trying to do the other party. You guys, I don't know if you remember Siaka Masakoi. He was on our show last year.
Yeah.
He ran for assembly, and he was arrested recently at the airport at LAX coming back from Tennessee because of January 6th. They charged him with 4 misdemeanor counts of trespassing and blah, blah, blah. 3 years after the fact, right? 3 years after the fact they're doing this.
Right.
The signal it sends to me is that he is an avid supporter of Trump. He was part of the LA GOP. He was a vice chair of the LA GOP. Are they going after him because of the misdemeanors, or are they going after him because he's a conservative supporting Trump?
Conservative.
Right. So it's sad to see that they're going all the way down to this level where they're just, picking people off just because of what they believe.
Yeah, and I want to clear. You just brought something up that I think is important. I think it was Iowa. President Trump just held a rally probably a week ago in Iowa, and he was addressing the crowd, and he was talking about being conservative. Not all of us are conservative, but we are common sense candidates, and that's what they want. They don't want liberal or conservative, Democrat or Republican. They want common sense in leadership today, and that's
At least for the LA GOP, they're thinking that way. I mean, it's not, and I've been to a lot of their meetings, and they're starting to think. They're looking for the best candidates. They're not just going to endorse anybody like they used to across the board. and I witnessed some of the people they didn't endorse, and I was shocked. Um,
Yeah.
but I think they're starting to see the light. Kind of like they want you to vote early now. They don't want you to wait to go walk in and vote. They want you to vote early, like the Democrats did.
Yeah. Right.
That's
Exactly.
a change in philosophy for the Republican Party, which I
Yeah.
think it's a great idea, right?
I
And kind of
got it.
about blood, I like the fact that David Hernandez is part of the California GOP as a vice chair because they need a little change, right? They
Yeah.
need some ideas on how to do things instead of the same old way.
That's absolutely true.
What's
Gentlemen,
impressive.
my battery is getting low, so I don't know if Al will be on or not. But you guys rock and roll this show,
Roger that, sir.
and
Go plug in. Plug in.
And we'll
there we
keep
go.
fighting. We'll keep fighting the fight.
Enjoy your.
All right, sir. Have a good night.
Yeah, I think you're going to get a lot of the way that California votes. I think you're going to get a lot of Democrats who will vote for you for the as a Republican because you have the common sense, ideas.
Well, I try to keep it simple. Like there's candidates out there that I listen to when they speak, and they mean well, right? And I get it, but we can't fix everything, right? We just can't, right?
Right.
And my thought is, why don't we work together and say, okay, candidate A, since your big thing is economy, then that should be your focus, and then the other candidate, we can do school choice, or we can do law enforcement instead of, because I know darn well that I can't fix everything, right? I can't. But if I'm focused on a few things, then I can make an impact on those few things, right?
Right.
Kind of like law enforcement, military. We don't attack willy nilly everywhere, right? We're very strategic on what we do, right?
Yep.
When we're doing a military operation, and I think that's where we lose it, because I don't think we don't think of it as a military operation. We just think of it as, I'm just going to argue with these people and I'm going to pass this bill. Well, you got to be strategic, right? You got to focus on really what you want to accomplish, right? Because we don't have a lot of time. You have maybe, 2 years, in my case, to make an impact to get reelected again one more time, right? Because, I'm going to need at least 4 years, and then hopefully find a replacement so that that person can run in my place and move on. We're trying to get things corrected,
Exactly. More fresh blood.
and that's what we truly need. We need more fresh blood. We need people that are willing to do that consistently, and we need people that want to listen to the constituents, right? Because they don't listen to us, right?
Right.
I, I sit there and you watch town halls, right? And the candidate or the politician gives their little speech. Well, why don't you ask me, Adam Schiff, what I think we need to do, right? Why don't you ask my neighbor what's important to him or her? Why don't you ask everybody else what's important to them? And then, whether you do it or not, at least I feel like you care because you're asking me. You're not
Right.
telling me what you're going to work on. I don't want to hear about your green ideas, right?
Right.
We need to be focused on what's truly important right now, and is whether it's safety in your neighborhood, whether it's the cost of living, right? Just like last week when we talked about it, I paid $5.49 for a loaf of bread. I was shocked. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
that's
like, get
crazy.
the hell out of here! $5.49 for a loaf of bread, and Newsom and Biden are talking about how it's cheaper now than it was last year.
Yeah, of
Give me
course,
a
because
break.
they went up. And they don't, it goes, it's like our gas. They're saying, oh yeah, our gas prices are coming down. Yeah, well, they're coming down because they, 6 months ago they were $100 a barrel, and they dropped finally to $70 now. So we're going to see that thing, and they're going to try to take credit for it. Well, they're the ones that jacked it up.
Here's the thing, right? The thing with all that is, people forget that Biden has been tapping the strategic reserve too,
Oh
right?
yeah,
People don't realize that's part of the reason that gas prices are dropping, right? But if we keep tapping the strategic reserve, we're not going to have anything.
yeah. And
And
how did
people
how
don't
do we
realize
do?
that.
And how do we beat some of the Japanese during Pearl Harbor? Is we cut off fuel to them because
Right.
we were sending it to them, so they didn't have stuff to come get us with. And people don't realize that. That's all part of people don't pay
Yep.
attention to the whole history thing. And if we
Well,
don't
because
have the fuel,
they get caught up on, hey, gas is dropping. They don't say, well, why is it dropping? They're assuming that person in a position of power is doing us a favor, right? Or they're helping us. They're not helping us because you're stealing for you. What is it? You rob for Peter to pay Paul, right?
yep,
And so in the end, we're not going to have strategic reserve, right? Kind of like we don't have a lot of
we
bullets, right? Um,
right,
we're losing military equipment left and right, and yet people think everything's okay, and it's not okay. Things are not
right,
okay, right? And we're wasting time, we're wasting resources, and look, I have nothing against green energy. I know that at some point we have to do a transition. I totally understand that, right? Because
mhm,
the environment is going to need us to do that. However, we need to do it smart. We need to be strategic about it. We need to make sure that we work on our infrastructures first before we move into a place where everything's electric, right? We can't
right,
continue to do this way. It just makes no sense, right? I was talking to somebody today about um, Amazon, right? Amazon has warehouses everywhere across the country.
right.
Um, the company I work for, we built, I don't know, a good 30, 40 just in California in the last 4 years, right?
Wow.
Um, and they used to have 200 to 300 people in a warehouse. But as you know, Amazon is moving to a robotic type of warehousing, right? So
Right.
now we're going to have, instead of 200 to 300 people working, maybe 10 to 20, working on the automation. That's it. So we're going to have a lot of unemployed people, right? Right. The promise of retraining them and all that, it's far fetched, right? You're not going to be able to retrain all these people to to have skill sets that are required, to work on turbines, to install solar
Plumbers,
panels, right?
electricians. Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of things that go into it, and we don't. I don't want to say we don't think about it, but the current leadership paints it as, oh, it's just an easy transition, right? Um, how we're going to kind of like recycling plastic. That is the biggest farce in the world, right? Because they really don't do it, right? It's not easy to recycle plastic, number one. Um, so when you talk about recycling and how you're helping, the world stay green, you're not really doing a good job of it. You're just not.
And then they're developments in different areas, and they're cutting all the trees down, which help produce oxygen.
Right.
And we're sitting there looking at that going, you want green and you think it's the environment. Well, you're killing the environment by not by cutting all the green stuff down. And like in California with the idea I had years ago about the desalinization plants.
Right.
And if you did that, you're going to have jobs. So you're going to have income tax. You're going to have structure. Then you're going to have to do the pipeline. So you're going to have more. And you can get that stuff out to the farmers in the field who are going to grow food, which is actually going to create oxygen too. And it's all going to go up.
Yep. It,
And they
it,
don't think, they don't, Trump is the only one that I've heard that stole my idea.
well, it goes back to what you and I always talk about, right? The common sense approach to things, right?
Oh, yeah.
I think that we want to overcomplicate things for the constituents, so that they're so confused. They're like, well, I guess he's doing the right thing, or I guess she's doing the right thing, right? Because when we talk about green energy, it sounds great on paper, right? But you have to be realistic, right? It's like
Right.
a young couple getting married and they have no money. You understand that you got to be realistic. So you got to build your nest egg, so at some point you have your nice home, nice car. It doesn't happen overnight. It just doesn't
Nope.
happen overnight. It takes work and effort from both partners to get to where they want to get, right? And that's the thing that first of all, it's not their money, so they don't really care. Number one, But second of all, they don't really care about us, right? I have
Nope.
never met a politician that comes to me and says, "Hey, Tony, what's important to you?" Not one. And I've met quite a few, right? They don't ask me.
I,
If they invite me somewhere, it's to give me a speech, uh, to clap for them for all whatever they think they did, right? Because we know that a lot of people in office take credit for things that they had nothing to do with, right?
exactly.
Somebody else did it. Some person in the neighborhood did it. Some lady volunteered. Some guy volunteered. They're not getting the credit they deserve for helping to resolve the issue.
Yep.
But that city council person or that mayor, he or she's getting credit for it when they had nothing to do with it,
I mean,
which is a shame.
when I was growing up, uh, in my early 20s, I said, "Well, okay, it's time for me to move out of the house. Where am I going to go? I can't buy a house because I don't have a lot of money." So I went and I found a mobile home. And the mobile home back then was as much as a like $21,000 for a brand new one. Then you got to pay the lot rent for the lot that it sits on. So I was okay, and I stayed there for a few years, and I kind of gradually grew my nest egg from that, and that's what happens.
Well, you gotta people gotta be realistic about things in general, right? There's no quick fix to anything. If it's a quick fix, it's not a fix, right?
It's not a fix, right?
It's just a band-aid, kind of like the school program, right? I talk about school choice and all this, but that's just really just a band-aid. We got to fix what is wrong with the system, with the education system, right? Because we're still going to have public schools. We still have to fix that. How do we fix that? What's the real problem with our school system? Is it because we have people that aren't educators dictating to the teachers and the educators what they need to teach, right?
Yep.
Is it because we have politicians taking skimming money off people? What's the real problem? And I'm gonna give you an example. Tony Cardenas, he's been a congressperson down here in California, God, forever, right? All of a sudden, he dropped out of his race.
Huh.
Why? Why did he drop out of his race? Is he one of the ones getting investigated? Is that why he dropped out? Um,
Yeah.
right? There's a lot of things that happen that if we don't pay attention, we can't figure out, for the world why it's happening. He's a guy that if he ran again, he would win again. No matter what, he would win again. Right?
Name recognition.
Name recognition. He's
Yep.
Latino. Everybody knows who he is. He was part of the union down here back in the early days. That's how he got into office, right? Um, there goes my point. Everything goes back to certain groups and organizations that influence the politicians, the educators, right? Hey, you do this, I'll give you that kind of kind of thing, right? Or I want you elected. We need to make sure that you pass these particular tax breaks for me or bills for me, right?
Right.
So it's kind of that if we don't start minimizing the influence of certain unions, especially in the public sector. Private, I don't give a crap what they do in the private sector, right?
Teachers unions.
Right. The teachers should not have a union. There shouldn't be a union.
I talked to my police chief last night at a retirees meeting, and I mentioned, like we had said, that if you're a police chief, you should be nominated and elected in there. And he like agreed. I said, because then you don't have the micromanaging that comes from your county executive, your mayor, whoever, to do your job, and you can do it more effectively. And he said, the biggest problem we got is most of the funding goes to school boards. Well, if you got rid of the Department of Education and you break that thing up, I think they got like $80 billion a year. Distribute that within all the states, and people were going to get $1 billion here and $1 billion there. We also had casinos built out here, and these casinos, part of their profit was supposed to go into our school board systems, and nobody's ever heard of where it goes.
Of course not. They don't want you to know, right?
Right?
They
Yep.
don't want you to know. It's And I think, the people need to take responsibility and accept it. We voted this person in, and he or she has not done their job. So we need to find somebody else to do the job.
Oh,
Right.
right. Yep.
I'm all for giving them, you got to give somebody 4 years to make a dent. But after
I
4 years,
think
if
so.
you haven't made a dent in 4 years, then I need to find somebody else because it's not working out.
Yep.
So it just, you know,
And they like playing the shell game from what I'm seeing out here is maybe the congressman that I was talking about earlier not going to run at 80 and they're wanting to grab somebody else out of the state house to say, "Oh, he's going to run because he's got more name recognition." And
right.
they like to play this little shell game.
Well, and it's funny you say that. Um, when I've met people through my campaign running for office, there's a lot of good people running, right? I mean,
Yeah,
good-hearted people. They might not have the name recognition, they don't have the money, but they're good, decent people, and they really are running to make a difference. And
right,
those are the people we need to elect, right?
right.
We need to elect somebody that is going to work hard for us, that is going to come talk to us and not give me a speech on all the bills you've passed. Talk to me. Maybe even freaking sit down with me at a table and say, what are your concerns, right? Not just with me, but with a group of people. Tell me, go to a neighborhood council meeting. Neighborhood council, what is going on? Please tell me how I can help you. What is important to you right now? What can I help you? And I know some people are going to say, there's holes on the street, um, the roads need to be repaved. But at this point, to me, that's not a priority, right? We need to focus on priorities, whether it's safety, the economy, our kids. Those are priorities to me. Fixing the
Right.
roads, it's a good thing, but that's not really a priority. The way we are today, if that's your priority, we're in trouble.
I've got it. My governor out here was left with a surplus when the last Republican governor left. Now we got the Democrat went in, and he goes out and he looks through different things. Goes, "Oh, this is a nice waterfront. We need a pier here." So he wants to put money in there. Well, as of like this week or early or later last week, it's like, "Oh, we have to cut $3 billion for transportation because we're going to have a deficit." Well, hello, dumbass. Did you really need that pier? You're not thinking concern. You're not thinking like it's your own checkbook, and you're
And
putting it
that's
in
the
the
problem.
wrong spot.
That's the problem, right? It's not their checkbook.
That's right.
And I just think that there's something about dealing with things with common sense, right? And being honest. Hey, if Adam Schiff can't do something, I would expect him to say, hey, I tried. I couldn't make it happen. I didn't have enough votes. I couldn't convince enough people. I failed you. I can accept that.
Right.
I can
Yeah.
accept that. Just tell me what your plan is now to try to make it happen. I can accept people telling me I couldn't do it because, right? But instead of the lies, instead of the attacks, right? Well, I couldn't do it because them freaking Democrats didn't want to support it, or them freaking Republicans don't want to support it. I don't want to hear that. I want to
Yeah.
hear you tried. Why did you fail? Did you know why you failed? And if you don't, then we have another issue, right? We need to
Right.
figure out how you failed so you can attack again and try to push that bill through, right?
Right. And it's not. It's they're not the only one voting on it. It's all the other people that are around them that are voting on it. You got to convince them what is right to do it. And if you can't convince them and say this is common sense, let's do this, and get them to go along with the program, you can get it done. But a lot of times, I mean, we got this bill out here called SB1, which is now held up in courts. And it was saying, oh, we want gun control. And all you people that we now have permits for because of New York City saying that you can't deny anybody a permit, and we're going to take away. You have your permit, but you can't go on your neighbor's property unless you say, "Oh, I got a gun on, and can I come on your property?" Or I can't go here and I can't go there. So now they're trying to restrict you.
Well, you're becoming California.
Well, we are. We're the California of the East,
because
and
that's what we are here.
it's just stupid. I mean, because if you want the people that are going to carry them are going to be legally carrying them, and they're probably going to be good people like the one in Pennsylvania who had the Jewish synagogue when the guy came in and he had his weapon on him and he stopped the guy because he shot him.
Right.
Bravo, bravo. And I'm seeing more and more stuff in my neighborhood where we have a Food Lion grocery store, and somebody threw acid in somebody's face, but four people got affected by it. Then right down the strip mall that we're in, somebody got stabbed outside of a liquor store. And then the Domino's, which is a little farther down, got the manager got shot in the back, and it's all in one area. The grocery store hired a armed security guard until November 18th, and then he left. And people aren't going to notice that if they walk in and go, "Oh, there's nobody here now." Yeah,
Yeah. Well,
and I've got friends that are involved, and you've seen the cameras that are up in stations like Lowe's
yes.
and stuff like that
Right.
have the big cameras in the parking lot. He actually does that. That's his job. He has. I was talking to one of his partners yesterday, and I think he said he's in 36 different countries. And that at least helps solve some of the crimes because
Well,
you see the guy run out, go to a car, you have it, and it's done real time.
right, and we have one at our local supermarket here in my city in Tonga.
Um,
Um,
yeah,
which is when you think about it, it's really a shame that we have to do that, right?
right.
Really a freaking shame. Um, we have some stores around here that they're locking up underwear behind glass doors, right? Come on,
So yeah,
this is where we become, and a lot of it is, we've allowed it, right? Because if it doesn't affect you immediately, you don't pay attention, right? But
right.
at some point, all this is going to affect you, right? Because it's going to affect you with the price of gas, the price of food, the price of clothing. Whether you were a victim or not, it's going to affect you because you're going to pay for whatever they steal. That's just common
Yep.
sense,
And
right?
part of the big problem with that is it all comes back to energy, where you got the trucks that got to come across country, and like I said, you get a diesel truck, they can go 2,000 miles, and you want to turn them into electric, and they'll go 300 miles, and there goes your supply chain again, and
Right.
things are going to start going up again.
People just sometimes I don't think they just understand the effect of certain things, right? Kind of like when crime rises, your insurance is going to probably go up in your neighborhood for your
Yep,
car, right? You don't think about that. Even if you have no accidents, it's still going to affect you,
it
right?
affects you, correct?
Right. I mean, I'm not a big fan of security cameras in a parking lot. I hate that blue light flashing, right?
Right?
But it's the cause of what's going on uh, with people robbing stores, right? They know in California, as long as it's less than $900, they're good, right? They don't have to worry
Lower
about it, right?
lower the price, lower
Right.
lower what the limit is. When I came on back in the 80s, yeah, geez, got 88. It was the crime had to, if you stole something over $300, it was a felony, and then it goes up, and then it goes up, and now it's what you say like $900.
Right.
Why don't you just keep it at one level?
Well,
You
because
know,
because they want to cater to people, and I'll go back to the guy. I think I talked about a couple weeks back. That works for Newsom staff, right? He he at 17 he shot this girl. He's a gang member. She's paralyzed for life. He became an intern with a program with the jail system. Um, Now he works for the government. I'm pretty sure in the position he works for the government, he makes good money, right? This
I'm
girl is still
sure.
paralyzed. So, and not that I have a problem with helping people, but when the gets less help than the person committing the crime, that's wrong, right? That's wrong
Right?
as far as I'm concerned, right? Um, you know, things need to be different. We need to take care of the good people and the bad people. We need to help them. Don't get me wrong. We need to provide them counseling, training, whatever they need, but we shouldn't be rewarding them. Right?
Right.
We got this guy Siaka, who is a family man, who is a good person. He's a Christian, um, and he gets picked up on things that happened 3 years ago. Right? Why do they wait so long? And it's not just with him, because I saw the news. They're doing that across the country. Anybody that was there is getting charged, right, for walking into the Capitol, right? Because he didn't do anything else wrong. He just walked in. Well, they kind of let him in. I mean, as you can see the videos now,
I've
they
seen
were
them.
allowed to get in,
They opened the doors for
right?
them.
So now we got a guy who first of all lives in California, who cost of living is crazy, has no money for defense, right? And only because he went into the Capitol, right? He didn't hurt anybody. He didn't do anything. He was led into the Capitol, and we're gonna make him pay the price, which is wrong, right? Um, it's just kind of everything's kind of screwy in our country today, um, and it didn't happen overnight. I know some people don't like when I talk about Obama, but I think he was the beginning of the end of all this,
Yep.
right? He started the nonsense. People bought into his madness, um, and they shouldn't have, right? Um, he's an articulate speaker. He's a great orator. I
Right.
mean, he can sell ice to an Eskimo in a heartbeat, right?
Yep.
But he wasn't the right guy for the job at the time. He wasn't. He was voted in because we all know why he was voted in,
That's
right?
right.
That's not a secret. Not because he could do it, and maybe because he spoke so well, everybody bought into the madness,
Right.
right? And I think sometimes we need to be careful when we're listening to people, um, and absorb it, think about it, do a little research on that person before you vote for him or her.
Yeah. I
Right?
mean, my county is what we always considered a cash cow. We had an officer that was in there was a guy who was crashing into cars, and he stopped, and the officer had locked him up, but he was on PCP and alcohol. And the guy started, in our situation, we don't have cage cars. We put him in the front seat, buckle him in, take him in. And the guy started going for the officer's gun. The officer pulled, had his gun knocked out of his holster, and he ended up getting shot by the policeman. And when the family, this part of this hasn't gone to court. Well, because he killed this guy, the county said, okay, we'll give you $20 million. And so he went to court in the last week or so, and the officer was now found not guilty of all charges. And we just gave somebody $20 million for a shitbird.
And again, it goes back to what you and I have always talked about. It's not their money, right?
Right?
So they just write that check. It's tax free. And as a taxpayer, first of all, there should be nothing paid off without us approving it, right? Nothing,
Right?
right? I didn't think that you could raise taxes, um, and I guess in California they do, but without the people voting for that kind of thing, right? I want to know. Okay, you want to raise my taxes? Explain to me why you want to raise my taxes.
Right.
What is the need for this extra money, right? And don't explain to me in terms that I'm not going to understand. Make me understand why you're doing what you're doing.
We
Is
get
there a reason
and we
to charge people that money?
and we get the
I want to know.
referendums on every election. Okay, do you support us using funding for a new school, a new upgrading a police station, upgrading a firehouse, stuff like this? And most, pretty much everybody says yes because it's a common sense thing. If these things are old and they start getting dilapidated, you fix it. And,
Right,
and they have
right.
that there, but all the other, the things that slip through the cracks, they don't ask you on.
No, they don't want my opinion.
Right,
They don't. I think that it's because we got to the point that when things were okay, we didn't really bother, right? We were just like, well, things are okay. so I'll just keep voting for this person. That's how people stay in politics in their positions for 20 years, right?
Right.
Things are okay, right? There's no checks and balances on things, right? And we should demand a report card. Hey, Congressman, what have you done? Tell me about these. Don't post them on your website because that means nothing to me.
Right.
When you come down to speak to your constituents, tell us what you've done, right? Don't and let us ask questions.
And,
Don't shut us off,
and that's what they
right?
don't do.
Don't,
They don't come
right?
out.
Don't tell
They,
me.
they don't come out and talk to their constituents.
No, they
You
don't.
only
None of
see
them.
them
They don't want
around
to.
election time if they want to do some campaigning. But other than that, I've sent emails to mine and I don't hear anything back. And they say, and when I meet them, I say, hey, I've sent you an email. Oh, well, did you use this address? So I got that address and I sent them another one. Still, all I heard was crickets.
Yeah, they don't.
Gotta go.
They really don't. They really don't want to explain to us what they're doing or not doing, right?
Right.
And like I have a real hard time. Like, like I'm not shaking Adam Schiff's hand. I don't give a crap. He can come to a community meeting. I am not shaking his hand. I'm not taking a smiley picture with him
Right.
because first of all, he's a horrible human being. Number one, right? But number two, he's done nothing for our district, right? Nothing. Yeah, they pass a lot of these green bills and all this other nonsense. What about what's really happening? What about the homeless people, right?
Right.
Why don't you address it? Give me an idea what you want to do about it. Don't just tell me I'm going to have $20 million for help the homeless. How are you going to help them, right? Are you going to give the money to these nonprofits that are ripping us off? Is that how you're going to help us, right? Is the person in charge of the committee have any vested interest in helping homeless? Were they homeless? Did they have family that were homeless? Or are these rich people you're just paying off, right?
Right. Look what they do with
Because that's really what it is, right? You nonprofits, that's bullshit. They're not nonprofit. They're making profit and they're using a certain percentage to help people. That's it,
Oh
right?
yeah.
At,
I mean, look
at
at
what point?
look at
Go
San
ahead.
Francisco when the Chinese Xi Jinping came in. They cleaned everything up, and they couldn't do it any other day. And they had Chinese flags all over the place. I bet if you hung Chinese flags up there now, they'd probably shit themselves.
Yep. It's just it's to me it's just crazy at this point, right? Because like I want to know. I just want to know. Kind of like when I go to work. When we get an update in the morning, okay, guys, tell me what's going on. Okay. Okay, why didn't we do this? Let's try a different approach. Let's call people at this time. You discuss things to make them better.
Right.
And we don't really do that. We're always assuming that the people we elect are doing it for us, and they're not, right? And they don't want to talk. They never want to give us specifics because they don't want to be held accountable, right? They just don't. And we need to hold them accountable.
Yeah.
If you tell me that you're going to fix the homeless issue and you have a plan how you're going to do it, then you better follow that plan. And if that plan doesn't work,
Tell me your
I
solution.
understand that. Right. I understand that some plans don't work, but we need to try something else besides pouring money into all these nonprofits and all these construction companies that aren't really building affordable housing, right?
Right.
They just like to throw that word around, but it's not really affordable housing for the normal person.
I saw a community that was like for a 55 and up community, and the sign that I saw said for 500,000. I'm going, now where the hell do you think these people are going to come from? Because me being over 55, I'm not buying one.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
And they don't have a solution, right? The solution for homeless is renting hotels, building unaffordable housing, but not really dealing with the core issues of the homeless people, right? Some are homeless because they want to be. There's nothing you can do about that, right? Some are homeless because their situation, they have a drug problem, they might have a mental issue, or maybe the family told them to get out. They don't want to deal with them for whatever reason. But we never really find out why they're homeless. We just, they're homeless. Let's put them up, or
Yeah,
and not deal with it. Kind of like criminals.
yeah, I heard from Sheriff
Kind of like
Lamb.
criminals, right?
I heard from Sheriff Lamb tonight, and he said part of our problem is he's down in Arizona, and he said our problem is these illegal immigrants come across the border. We give them a phone. We give them a $5,000 Visa card, and uh, we say you'll have a court date in 5 years.
Yep.
And he said, "This is what's going on." And who's giving them the $5,000? I guess it's me and you. And why are we doing that? You
And
come across here if you don't have the money, and you ain't got it, and you're supposed to be charged so much for coming across the border, you know, as a penalty. What's going on? You're not charging penalty fees.
well, here's the funny part about all this, right? People talk about I'm going to move to Canada because they're better than us and blah blah blah, right?
They're not that much better.
So I'm going to give you an example of Canada's laws, right? So we have a job in Canada coming up, and American citizens go work there, right? But if you have a DUI or any you can't work in Canada if you're a U.S. citizen, right? So they won't even
Ah,
let us in for a DUI in Canada to work. Right?
wow.
We stop a rapist or a drug addict, we're bad.
Or
Right? We're
terrorist,
bad people for doing
right?
that. Right? We don't do a good job of explaining to people why we're doing things, right? And maybe that's Trump's problem. He's kind of, a crass kind of person. But we need to tell people the reason we're doing it is because this, kind of like
Right.
criminals, right? There's some criminals that you can't reform. It is what it is. There's some that are
That's right.
criminals because they have some mental issue or a drug issue or alcohol issue. When people get put in jail, solution is very simple. We need jails. I don't care what anybody says. We need jails,
Right.
right?
Build more.
But let's have a jail that is comprehensive in nature. So if you committed a crime and you're a drug addict, we're going to put you in a ward with drug addicts, and we're going to help you get off drugs, right? Let's
Right.
actually if we're going to spend the money, let's spend it right. If you have a
Right.
mental issue, then we're going to help you get your mental issue straight. When you're good, we're going to let you out, right? And if you're
Right.
good, we're going to train you and then let you out with some skill
Right.
set, right? If you're just a criminal and you don't care, then you stay in jail. You rot in jail as far as I'm concerned. I don't care. There is
Years
people
ago,
we
we
can
had
help. Go ahead, Mike.
a juvenile who was breaking into laundry machines to get the money. Well, they locked him up. They took him into the station. He took the officers' guns and killed two officers. So while he was in jail, he got his law degree. And shortly after he got out, he went with his brother to a bank in another county and was trying to rob that. And guess what? He's now got a chalk outline of himself out there because
We
they wasted all that money on somebody that wasn't going to be reformed and just
we
used the system.
we address the wrong issues, right? Somebody's a
Yep.
criminal, we blame it on where they grew up or whatever. Let's find out what the real reason is that things are happening. I don't mind paying more for that than have this revolving door. You get
Right.
in, you get out, you get in, you get out, you get in. Or if you're homeless and and you're bipolar, we don't address your bipolar issue, we address the homeless issue. Well, we might want to address both of them at this point if that's the issue, right?
Well, Washington D.C. has
Instead
got
of one.
you know how big Washington D.C. is. It's not even a square. It's
Right.
kind of cut at an odd angle. Well, in D.C. this year, they've got 900 carjackings and 250 homicides in that area right there. And the people go in and they say, "Oh, we're with this juvenile reform type thing. We're not going to, you're not going to be charged for this," and they go out and they do it right again.
And again, we perpetuate all the negative and never the positive, right?
Right.
And I think at some point, we the people need to say enough, right? We can't let people out of jail without some kind of help. Kind of like abortion, right? In California, it's the law. There ain't nothing you can do about it. It's the law. It's in the Constitution in California,
Right.
right? You, in order to change the Constitution, a lot of things have to happen in California, which it's not going to happen anytime soon, right? So we
Right.
have to address the issue intelligently, right? Yeah, uh, I'm pro-life, right? I'll tell you that. I will try to talk the person into keeping the child, right? If they don't want to, there's nothing I can do about it, right? It's up to them. But at least I want to give them the opportunity to talk to somebody about keeping that child so that maybe a family out there can adopt that child, right?
Yeah, and even before you hit that spot, I mean, out here they were doing years ago. They were doing contraceptions, and
Right,
so it was like, hey, you want some condoms? You go to this library. There's like a whole bucket full. Take a few, and you kind of head it off at the pass.
right, right.
But you don't hear too much about anything like that anymore.
Well, I think people got to get over themselves too. I think a
Yeah,
lot of it is show, you know, well, he's not pro life, or you got it's a woman's right. It's always about a woman's right, but really the issue is not the woman's right. She has a right to do whatever she wants with her body.
right.
I never dispute that, right? We all do. What I dispute is if you make an error, if you make a mistake and it's unwanted pregnancy, right? Shame on you. Number one. Um, Number two, there's other options you could do so that doesn't happen, right? So now if it's rape or incest, anything like that, then I'm all for that because
Sure.
that's you violated a woman's body, you violated her. That it's not fair at all. But if it's something that happened, we got to give people options where we live in a state where it's legal. I can't stop it. I won't tell anybody in the campaign trail I'm going to stop it because I can't, right? I can't stop it.
Right.
We need a lot of things to come together in order that we need the state assembly to agree and the Senate to agree. And in California right now, it's like this,
It's like
right?
pulling
So we're
teeth.
not going to agree,
Yep.
right? We have to be equal or even this way so that we can make some changes to the Constitution.
Yep.
Um, and then, even then, we have to give it to the voters to vote for it. So it's
Right.
not even a guarantee after the assembly and the Senate agree. It's not a guarantee that the people are going to agree to that.
No, you
So there's a lot of
put a referendum out on the votes and see what people say, and see which way the wind's blowing.
right. So there's a lot of moving parts. So when I hear people talking about they're going to change it, I just said, "Go, you can't change it. You
Yeah.
can't do it overnight. It's a
It's like
process."
trying to get a constant.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, Mike, thank you for tonight.
You got it, brother.
We had a surprise guest, Steamboat Willie. I want to thank the LA County Republican Party for endorsing my campaign. I look forward to representing my constituents up in Sacramento. We need to make changes, but again, I can't do it alone. I'm going to need your help. So go check out my website, Tony, the number 4, California.us. See what I'm about. You'll be seeing me on the campaign trail here soon. Mikey, good night.
You got it.
Thank you, everybody, for
Have a
tuning
good
in to
night.
the Tony Rodriguez Show on the Next Gen USA. Good night, everybody.
Good night.